on Rug Delver. And one of the reasons a lot of the Goblin pilots I've talked to have gotten off the deck has to do with, what is it, True Name Nemesis was kind of the last straw for it. And we see here, to recap the board, Jim Davis at 15 life. He has set up a pretty decent board here. Relic of Progenitus working away at Phraner. He has a pair of Goblin tokens, an Aether Vial on 2, and a healthy life total. On the other side, Phraner, he has an Insectile Aberration, but that's about it. And it looks like Jim has gotten control of this game to a point. Yeah, Goblin Pile Driver is vialed in. So I think what happened is Gem Palm Incinerator is being cycled in response, is being cycled at the Insectile Aberration. In response, a Goblin token was bolted. In response to that, a Pile Driver was vialed into play. So the Gem Palm Incinerator still did 2.
So this is all an attempt here for Ryan to save his Delver of Secrets.
Yeah.
But this is still a good trade of resources here for Jim. He still gets to draw a card off of his Incinerator. A Lightning Bolt got used on a Goblin token. A lot to like here if you're Jim.
Yeah, a second bolt was used on actually on the Pile Driver. So the Delver, Insectile Aberration did survive the cycle. But you're right, he did get a bolt at a Goblin token, and he didn't have to actually commit any cards in Goblin Pile in the Gem Palm Incinerator, as it still draws the card.
Now the concern here for Jim here, looming in Ryan's hand, you see a copy of Rough Tumble. This is a haymaker against goblins, and Ryan has the ideal setup for it, where he has a Foot Insectile Aberration, and it looks likely that Jim is going to have to commit more 2 toughness or less creatures to the ground to race this Delver.
Yeah, Rough Tumble is basically a Pyroclasm that only hits non-flyers, a pretty surgical tool from Rug Delver decks.
Mostly for the Elves matchup, but very good against Goblins as well.
And right now, Goblin War Chief is vialed into play. Goblin Pile Driver is cast for Jim. And this is a lot of damage.
Yeah, the Rough Tumble is going to be good next turn, but this is a lot of damage this turn.
Yeah, it's going to be 2, 3 from the haste creatures. The Goblin Pile Driver is going to pump up to 5, I believe. So it's a swing for 8. Knocks Phraner down to 9. And there you have it. The rough half of Rough Tumble will take care of Jim's board. It's going to be a pretty rough play there for him.
And if this turn was already pretty bad for Jim, it got worse with the draw step for Ryan being a Tarmogoyf. Now, Ryan can also deploy Grim Lavamancer this turn as well. So a lot of options.
Yeah, Lavamancer is a 2 of in his sideboard that has come in for this matchup. But the bigger concern is that Jim's only remaining card is a Goblin War Chief. He's probably going to have to draw a card off the Relic.
I think his last card left over is Matron.
Well, that's a different story then.
Yeah.
Matron's great here.
Yeah, he can use the Relic to nuke the graveyards, and then he can go ahead and Matron for a, I guess an Incinerator? No, Incinerator is not. He basically has to go get the Gem Palm Incinerator, cycle the Incinerator, and then sack the Relic. That will get rid of the Tarmogoyf.
Yeah, so you're putting a lot of emphasis on killing the Tarmogoyf. He could also Matron for Ringleader and just like put the vial up to 4 and try to just draw into like he's pretty low on resources right now. He's a little low on life points as well, so there's some concern.
I think the big thing here is that once you get the Tarmogoyf off the table, then you have a lot of draws that deal with the Insectile Aberration. There's 3 copies of Tarfire in Jim's list, so
right.
It is a concern, but he does have answers to that stuff. The Tarmogoyf is much harder to answer, so I think what's going to happen here is he's going to go get the Incinerator, he's going to incinerate the Tarmogoyf, and then use Relic to nuke all the graveyards, sending Tarmogoyf to be a 0/1 with a point of damage on it, and then hope to find a Tarfire or some other answer to the Insectile Aberration that's hitting him.
Yeah, looks like he's actually shoving a Tarfire up to the front. That's also, it's more mana efficient. It doesn't have the draw a card clause on it though.
Just depends if he has any. He has 3 Incinerators, so not sure if he's out. I would be surprised if that was the case.
Tarfire will be pointed. He's actually just going to go ahead and take care of the Insectile Aberration.
Okay, and then he can just use the Relic here to play defense against the Tarmogoyf. So this is a much better line from Jim. I was so hung up on killing the Tarmogoyf that this is just much better.
You don't actually have to kill it, you just have to keep it small.
Yep.
He's going to make that second vial.
Jim Davis, just an expert level Goblins play.
There was a moment there where Phraner asked him to pause on the Aether Vial. That is a read for days if you're on Jim's side, and Phraner does have the days in hand.
Yep.
So as you said, Jim uses that last mana to nuke the graveyards. Had Phraner days there, I do believe the days would have just countered the Aether Vial.
Yes, I believe so too. But the Aether Vial is pretty low impact in this spot, so.
Yeah, it's not a certainty that it's going to do anything this game.
Yeah. The problem with not killing the Tarmogoyf here is that if Ryan has some way to get a card into the graveyard and he's drawn Wasteland this turn, now you're kind of stuck because he attacks with Tarmogoyf. Let's say you block with the Matron. Ryan goes ahead and wastelands his own land, and all of a sudden the Tarmogoyf's growing again, and you're kind of in the same spot.
Yeah, so my guess and the thought from Jim here is that he needs to draw into some gas to win regardless of what happens here. You know, he's going to, like, a Matron, a Ringleader, something like that is going to be really important to him winning. So if he can draw into that, then he can maybe get this Tarmogoyf under control again. But at least, you know, to win, he already has to have some draws. So you might as well play as though he has those cards.
Yeah. The board is, you know, could be best be described here as vaguely stable right now.
Yeah, the fact that Jim is at 9 can be problematic. It's interesting, right? So Ryan's clearly ahead on the board right now, but Jim's top decks are a lot more explosive.
Yeah. So you see here, this is the path that Ryan wants to take to get this Tarmogoyf large enough to start attacking. He's playing the Grim Lavamancer, dazing it, paying for the daze, just to get something into his graveyard so he can start attacking.
Right. Hasn't gone as far as to wasteland his own lands to get another pump, but he will take the one pump. Doesn't believe, especially with double Aether Vial, he doesn't really believe that Daze is ever going to get value, that this pump is the best value he'll get.
So the clock that you see on top of the screen there, that is accurate. That's the time left in the round.
I don't think the players are going to use all their time. One way or another, this match seems headed toward a conclusion. And a third Aether Vial, the draw for Jim. Less than ideal. He has some turns to work with. Not too many, though. Remember, Phraner can blow up his own lands, and that will provide fuel for Grim Lavamancer as well as pumping Tarmogoyf.
Well, the Matron here does allow Jim to, again, go get a Tarfire or get a Jump Palm Incinerator, kill the Grim Lavamancer, and begin racing, in fact.
Yeah, so he's going to go ahead and Vial in that second Matron. Let's see what he goes for. It's... Looks like he's thinking about another Matron, a Ringleader. And if he wanted to make Matron for Ringleader, he could have done it with his mana. He took a risk there by not taking his Vial up to 4 that he thought he might draw something very good. So he's going to go ahead and just, Matron for Matron, getting Ringleader.
Just trying to flood the board a little bit here, provide enough blockers, chump blockers for that Tarmogoyf.
Were it not for Grim Lavamancer, he could possibly Matron for Chieftain and just aggro that way. The problem with that play being that Lavamancer can actually just shoot down a Chieftain if Jim plays one.
Mm-hmm.
So now 8 and 9 are life totals. Jim once again showcasing that card advantage engine that Goblins has. As many 1/1s for 3 as it wants.
So even though this is a 1-2 attack, remember, at a moment's notice here, Ryan can go ahead and make this Tarmogoyf a 2-3 by wastelanding his own land. He's also drawn Chain Lightning. There's a lot of ways for Ryan to potentially burn Jim out of this match.
Yep, he's going to do just that. Pump Tarmogoyf to a 2. Jim is down to 6. And you said if he's drawn Chain Lightning, then Jim's very close to dead.
Yeah.
If he drew Chain Lightning, then he would have cast it, though, right?
Not
No, he has to leave up red.
Yeah, he can try to slow roll it here a little bit.
Arid Mesa, the draw for Jim. He's going to need his mana this turn. He doesn't know how much yet, though. So Goblin Ringleader is the first play. It reveals 2 goodies, an Incinerator and a War Chief.
And that Incinerator is really important here because right now, Jim is at 6. He can chump block the Tarmogoyf now for a while. He can't survive 2 Grim Lavamancer activations now in the face of that Chain Lightning in Ryan's hand. So if he takes care of the Grim Lavamancer, he does survive the Lightning Bolt that Ryan has access to.
And he correctly picks the Grim Lavamancer to incinerate. So it looks like Phraner is going to shock something in response.
And Jim is pretty close to start. I mean, he's going to be able to attack for some damage this turn, leave back a chump blocker.
Yeah, exiling land. Going to probably hit this ringleader.
This has been a really impressively navigated game by Jim.
Goblins. The card advantage that Goblins has is really interesting. It's really powerful. I like that aspect of the deck.
It's very rare that I watch a match where someone's making plays where I'm saying to myself, I would be doing A, and then a turn later I'm like, nope, they did B, and B was a lot better. And I'm having that experience turn after turn watching Jim play Goblins. So
he makes a third Aether Vial. He's going to swing some number of creatures. Phraner, rather than shooting down the ringleader, chose to go upstairs with the activation.
He can't hope to contain Jim's board at this point, so he has to play a burnout game. And the writing's on the wall. You know, Jim's just ringleader. He's found a war chief. It feels unlikely that he's going to be able to survive next turn, so he just has to go for the punk out plan. You can see Ryan's hand is Chain Lightning, Volcanic Island. So if he draws another bolt or some other burn spell, he can chain it together. So I like that play a lot for Brian.
And Jim right now, we are on turn 0 of extra turns. Like I said, no real chance that this is going to go to a draw. This is going to end in the next 3 turns. But the question is how many creatures Jim wants to attack with. He needs to leave back at least 1 chump blocker. Not positive whether he wants to leave back, needs to leave back an additional 1. Or whether the additional 1 actually contributes to the clock as an attacker.
Yeah, well, it may matter if it is Chain Lightning because that adds a sorcery to the graveyard. But Jim just had erring on the side of caution here.
Yeah, you could Chain Lightning a blocker, crack a fetch land, swing lethal.
Yeah, something along those lines. So
yeah, Jim wisely not cracking Arid Mesa, and I don't think Arid Mesa's card anymore.
No, it is not. If Ryan taps out a red and Jim's killing that turn, it becomes a card. But otherwise, Jim's not going anywhere near that Arid Mesa. So we are on turn 1 right now. Both players are very low on life, so it feels likely this will end inside of time. And Ryan trying to figure out how to proceed from here. It almost feels like he just has to try to stave off death here and hope to draw another bolt.
All right, so you're saying Phraner needs to try, you'd say it switches to the playing for a draw game plan?
No, I think he still has the opportunity to just block as much as possible and win with a burn spell. Again, his hand's still Volcanic Chain Lightning, so a Lightning Bolt or any other burn spell is lethal.
Now, the question is, do you need to use the Chain Lightning? Is there a chance he can win with damage? Like, their argument for using a Chain Lightning now is that way Jim can't send the lightning back at him. Now, if Jim's at 3 or less when he casts it, that doesn't matter.
Right.
And all the Aether Vials tick up for Davis. This is turn 2. 6 and 4 life totals. Mog War Marshal. The draw for Jim. Hilariously, it's the one Aether Vial he does not have a number set to.
It does provide quite a bit in the way of chump blocking, though.
Yeah, he actually can't play all 3 of his goblins this turn. So we'll start with a Vial in of War Chief. And we'll see where he goes from there. For 1 mana, he can have the War Marshal, which I think we'll see happen. Well, no, he can play everything because War Chief costs 2. Right, War Chief costs 2 now, and now the War Marshal costs 1.
He can put this all together and let's see, does it, so he attacks for lethal. Is he short if there's a bolt involved?
So let's see. He'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 attackers. So with 2 blockers, that guarantees 6 damage. He actually has 7 damage in attackers.
But if there's a bolt
If there's a
involved in
bolt,
this,
then he only takes 5.
it's not lethal if there's a lightning bolt.
So lightning bolt involved, it's not lethal.
Is Jim going to make his move?
Yeah, does he have to go for it this turn?
Yeah, you can tell. You know, Jim's thinking about the same thing that we are right now. If there's no lightning bolt in Ryan's hand, Jim wins the game. If there's a bolt and he makes this attack, he dies.
So can he? It's safer to then swing over 2 turns. He'd only really be dead to something like a top deck's lightning bolt or top deck's burn spell.
But if there's no lightning bolt in his hand, he doesn't have to send the last creature. So he can send everything but a blocker, because if there's no bolt in hand, he comes across for a 2-power creature plus some of the 1-power creatures come across. So he doesn't have to send everything.
Well, there's also a chain, but you're not talking about the possibility of a chain lightning in hand. You know, a bolt that is a sorcery.
Well, the card that Jim has to play around right now is literally the card Lightning Bolt or some
Right.
other instant that can kill a creature. If there is no instant speed removal spell in his hand, Jim wins on this attack. If he leaves back 1 blocker, he can survive it. And the guys, yeah, okay.
All right. Yeah, so because there's no bolt, yeah, Jim can leave back 1 blocker.
And that gives him insurance against the Tarmogoyf coming back and killing him. To survive, Ryan almost certainly has to block and lose the Nimble Mongoose inside of combat. So a pretty safe attack there by Jim. He wins the game if there's no lightning bolt and doesn't necessarily lose the game if there is a lightning bolt. There's no bolt, and Jim moves
Right.
on to 3-1.